the numerous health conditions you mentioned that you suffered from, I've covered most of those on this channel before. So I think my audience at least should be aware that those are, or most of those conditions that Dr. O'Mara mentioned that he personally suffered from are caused by the state of hyperinsulinemia. Now, the restless leg syndrome was new to me. So what's happening there then?
Yeah, so restless leg syndrome, I think, really is has a mechanism through the nervous system. So peripheral nervous system and probably the central nervous system as well. And once you eliminate processed foods, tissues throughout the body, to include the neurons and tissues that make up the peripheral and central nervous system, improve as well. And so people have reported pretty widely resolution of restless leg syndrome through dietary interventions such as the carnivore diet and keto, where the improvement in metabolism also results in improvement in a physiological state where tissues can improve. So autophagy is one of the mechanisms that probably are significantly contributing to the improvement of the peripheral nervous system. And evidence of that too is my reflexes have improved considerably. I used to kind of be off balance. I would notice that from time to time I'd be in a certain position, I'd kind of lunge and, just awkward. And my twin brother was noticing the same thing in himself. I have an identical twin brother. And that departed from me about probably 3 years ago, and I have none of that. It just gradually lifted. But another interesting is how fast I can react now. So I react to, I had a failure on a video once I was trying to do for my Instagram account where I was doing a test where you sit on the ground and you stand up without using your hands and or anything else. And in the process of doing so, I kind of had lost balance and I was falling, and I quickly corrected my body. And I remember I was about 55 at the time, and I remember being astounded seeing this 55-year-old guy making such a quick adjustment. I mean, it's just not something that you would see a gray-haired guy be able to move so quickly. It'd be kind of a maneuver you might see in a teenager or somebody in their early 20s, but not a gray-haired 55-year-old. So the ability to adjust there also improved. And then perhaps the most significant of all really was an interesting test, if you're listening, is the ability to stand on one foot with your eyes closed. And it's typically reported in the news and on the internet and studies where how long you can stand for one, on one foot with your eyes closed. But I think that misses the mark. I don't even think it's worth even talking about how long you can do it. I think the metric there is not how long you can stand on one foot with your eyes closed, but how well you can stand on one foot with your eyes closed. So the refined metric is how still are you? How easy is it for you to stand on one foot with your eyes closed? So many people could stand for, when I started testing myself, I stood for 90 seconds and then I get kind of bored. But my ability to stand was not so good. I would be wobbling all over, and so I stood on one foot, but my other leg would be going all over the side, and my body would be contorting, making all sorts of adjustments. But today, I stand like a tree, like really, really still. And what's interesting to me is young kids do this really well, typically between the ages of, say, about 10 and 14 or so. It seems to be the sweet spot where humans can stand very, very still on one foot and in an enviable way where adults can't do it. The kids just nail it. And so I think it's kind of cool to point out interesting things that kids can do that adults can't, where those things, and I'm not talking about like cool postings on Instagram. I'm talking about physiological, biological differences in kids because they are simply healthier. And it's not like they're born healthier than adults. It's adults simply have acquired disease and aren't aware of it. And one of those manifestations is imbalance. So if you, through autophagy, largely driven by diet and some other things that I do, such as fasting, and particularly extended fasting, you can improve neurologic tissue and indeed tissue all over your body, and you just become functionally more healthy. So I went from kind of being wobbly and all over for years. I didn't have much improvement in my ability to stand on one foot without wobbling. And then after about 4 or 5 years of doing that, I tested myself once again, and I waited another year and retested myself, and suddenly I could stand like a tree. So after being really, in the health space for years, and then suddenly, not having much improvement in that balance test, and then 1 year dramatic improvement, I had to ask myself as a researcher, what was the difference?